Welcome to my humble abode and chapter 9, culture and gender. Gender is a very divisive topic to many, and I really don't know why. But I believe part of it's because we have ingrained gender norms and gender roles in our society. And if a person of a certain sex acts like a person of a different sex, then people freak out. It started when you were a baby. Little boys wear blue and little girls wear pink. I have a grandson that I got a cool looking pink shirt for it, and his dad freaking flipped out. But you're not going to put pink on my son. It's like, look, it's just a damn color, okay? It doesn't mean anything. It's not changing the person. I have some real nice pink shirts and pink ties that I like to wear. And I don't just wear them for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we have this distinction that men are supposed to do this and women are supposed to do that. My wife loves to watch these judge shows on TV, that and crime CSI shows. I think she's trying to figure out how to kill me and get away with it. But one of the judges, the guy was saying, well, it was a divorce court type thing. Well, yeah, well, I'm traditional, and so, she should do the housework. And the judge says, well, if you're traditional, that means you should be earning the paycheck and she shouldn't have to go to work. Well, so a lot of guys have this mixed, confused thought process that women cook, clean, vacuum, do laundry, and they go to work and sit on their ass at home and don't do anything else. If you're both working, then you both need to be doing housework. If she's working and you're not, then you need to be doing housework. So that's just my rant on culture and gender. But we talk about two genders. Actually, cultures have acknowledged multiple genders for centuries. It's not that something new. It didn't just happen since the 1960s. It's been happening around the world in different cultures. So let's talk a little bit about it. Biological sex. That is determined by the chromosomes that a person has, X and Y and chromosomes. And gender identity. If you feel like that your gender is the same as your assigned biological sex, then you would be known as cisgender. If, on the other hand, you don't feel that you're a male and you don't feel like those male things are right, then, or you're female and you don't feel those female things are right, then you would be what is called non-binary. And of course, there's transgender, and transgender is that you feel completely like the other gender that you're not. Gender expression is something else in the book, and it's about language. When I was young, it was, if you were a group, it was he. There might have been 50 women and 50 men, but it was he or they, because the masculine took the priority. Other cultures have masculine, feminine, and neutral. The status of women. The United Nations did a bunch of big studies like they always do. And I'm going to sum it up pretty quickly. All of the countries have made improvements, but they still got a long way to go. All the countries have come closer to equality between men and women and third or fourth genders, but we got a long way to go. The World Economic Forum also did studies, and they agree that we're doing better. They're saying that women are better in health and health longevity and education than they used to be. At one time, prior to my time, women would go to college to get an MRS degree. And for those of you who don't know what that means find somebody to get married to. And but the women are still suffering in economic participation and political empowerment. Now, I mean, let's be honest. There's 50% of the population is men and 50% is women, roughly. How many of our politicians are women? Does the political parties that we have supporting the United States or representing the United States, is it a representative sample of both genders? Annually, according to the World Economic Forum, about 800,000 women are forced into sex trafficking every year. And a lot of people think that sex trafficking, it's just the latest scam and da 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 da. Well, it's not a scam. It does happen, and it even happens in the United States. So it's something that we have to be aware of. You don't hear of a bunch of guys getting picked up off the street and drugged into sex trafficking. And before you're a smartass about it, say, yeah, they do that to me. No, you wouldn't like it. So let's see. Politically, women are still underrepresented. Comparison of individual countries. And this was pretty interesting read for me anyway. Nordic countries by far are the most equal. Iceland, Norway, Denmark, Finland, they are the most equal as far as men and women. Mexico, the traditions of chauvinism are hindering equality. Although they have passed some legislation that say women can do this, women can do that, it's still a macho chauvinistic culture. And you can't legislate morals. You really can't. And so they passed some laws to make it better for women, but you got to follow through on that. China, the Confucian culture, places women beneath men. And before China's one-child policy, China is the world's most populated country. They were actually killing little girls because daddy wanted a son. Well, what those geniuses didn't figure out is that the male determines the sex of the child, because whether or not we give up a Y chromosome, whether or not it turns into a boy or a girl. So, and they were blaming their wives. There was actually, if a woman couldn't give her husband a son, she could be banished. Japan also has Confucian history, and their culture emphasizes gender roles, especially pre-World War II. They were also, abandoning little girls and things like that because it wasn't a boy. But since World War II, things have gotten better because of the treaties that were signed, and women have more rights. But prior to World War II, a woman was basically the possession of her husband. And I don't know many American women would put up with that crap. South Korean women are well educated and economically engaged. That's really great, but also because of their historical culture, they're not empowered. And India, which according to the text could become the most populous country by 2024, because China went to the one-child rule and India still kept having a bunch of babies. They're lacking in education and economic participation in politics. So we have a lot of Indian women that are educated, but there's more males. The education system is more driven toward the men. Women are expected in that culture to get a husband, take care of the kids, give them as many as they want, take care of the house, that type of stuff. The Arab states, the role of women in Arab states is kind of convoluted because the Arab states is more than Saudi Arabia, as the last chapter talked about Yemen, Palestine, all these other Kuwait countries, and things are beginning to change in some aspects after we pulled out of Iraq or pulled out of Afghanistan. Uh, Women's rights started going down the tube real quick. But according to the Quran, you know, they say the Quran is law. According to the Quran, we're all equal. Men and women are equal. Muhammad was actually instrumental in getting women to allowed inside the mosques. But equal, but different. You know, well, they're equal, but they're different. And we had that fight with Brown versus the Board of Education when they said equal but separate schools, and they weren't equal. And you really can't have something that's equal but different. Patriarchal traditions repress women. And some countries are stricter than others. So, I was talking to a friend of mine that was in the military. She could fly jets during the Desert Storm, but she wasn't allowed to drive a car because she was a woman. And we actually have some antiquated laws on the books. Somebody was telling me the other day there's a law, I can't remember what state it's in, but a woman can't drive a car unless her husband is on the hood of the car firing a shotgun to warn other people there's a woman driver. I don't think they enforce that law anymore, but how many of you young ladies would say, what do you mean? No, I can't drive. Marriage. Marriage is culture oriented, it's culture based. Some cultures allow more than one spouse. There are cultures that allow a woman to have more than one husband, and there are cultures that allow a man to have more than one wife. I have one wife, and that's enough. Okay, I don't think I could put up with any more. They also have some countries are arranged marriages. This family decide that this son and this daughter are going to get married, and they don't have any say in it. And actually, some of those arranged marriages last a very long time. The people fall in love with one another. They start caring for one another. But sometimes he thinks she's he believes that she is his property, and he treats her as such. Non-binary gender identities. The gender dichotomy male-female is really more of a Western idea. It originated centuries ago. Men do this, women do that, and that's it. But more than that has been going on, as I mentioned earlier. Native Americans, and the book lists 4 or 5 different tribes where they had third gender options. One of them, the guy, when he was doing women's work, he dressed as a woman. When he was doing men's work, he dressed as a man. Others, men fully took on the female role. And they could do everything the woman could do except give birth. Okay? Pre-Columbian South America, before Columbus came to discovered. We just had Columbus Day, and I don't know how many of you thought about that as far as a cultural thing goes, but culturally for centuries we said Columbus discovered America, and recently we're going, dude, there were other people here when you got here, so you really didn't discover it. So pre-Columbian South America, they had third gender options. Pre-Cook Hawaii, they had third gender options. India, Pakistan, and Nepal, and Bangladesh have had third gender options in their history. Thailand has had third gender options. Gender queer is the term they're using nowadays, and it's a pop culture type deal. Uh, and they push using neutral pronouns. That's a big thing now in LinkedIn and in other platforms. It's like Vernon Humphrey, him, his. I okay, that's what you want me, and I can kind of understand it. But if somebody was a male and they were effeminate and they wanted me to call them the other, I'd be happy to just tell me. So I guess that's their way of telling me now. But I started not to put it up there, and then I caught all kinds of flack because I didn't have it there. I said, okay, I'll put him, his, if it will make other people happy. I personally think that if you're going to be doing a little different, then you tell it what it is. Other than that, just fall into the norm. But I guess the norm is changing. Cultural status, and I'm going to torture this name, Yag Yag Yogyakarta, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. In 2006, they came up with something called Principles of Freedom: freedom of expression, freedom of from violence, non-discrimination, privacy, employment, health, education, immigration, for people, regardless, male, female, or uh, non-binary. And that was a great step forward, especially in that part of the country. You hear often that the United States leads the way and all these other countries are backwards. Well, kind of look at some of the things that other countries are doing. Don't get me wrong, I'm patriotic, I love America, but I think sometimes we're followers before we're leaders. India's Supreme Court affirmed that a person's right to self-identify. India's Supreme Court said you can identify one way or the other. It's up to you. Pakistani called for recognition of a third gender. Argentina passed a law that any woman over the age of 18 can simply choose what gender they want to be. You want to be that, you can be that. It's you don't have to do anything about it. Just this is what I want to do. Colombia, Denmark, Ireland, and Malta have a similar situation. You can choose your gender, but you have to file certain paperwork to do it. I guess to make sure your driver's license matches what you wanted to say and that type of stuff. Australia, New Zealand, and the U.S. and Ontario, Canada now allow you to select unspecified. When you're filling out that form for the government, it says sex, male, female, you can select unspecified. Gender expression. Expression is basically verbal and nonverbal communication. What do you choose? How do you choose to express yourself? I was working for a radio station. We did a remote, and this couple of young ladies walked up, and they started talking, and I realized that one of them was not biologically a young lady. And I thought, I don't know if I have the nerve to do something like that. It had to take a lot of guts to do that and go out in public, especially in the society in which we live in. Because oftentimes they would get ridiculed, beaten, molested, whatever the case may be. Many languages have male, female, and gender neutral terms or endings for nouns and things like that. We don't in the United States. So it depends. And the book talks about Japanese language. If a woman is speaking, she says one thing. If a man is speaking, he says something else. But it both means the same thing. It's just that whatever gender you are, you have to speak in a certain way. And the confusion was that they had Japanese women teaching American servicemen how to speak Japanese, so they were speaking in the effeminate form. And most people thought that, those Japanese thought they didn't sound assertive or masculine because they were using the wrong words. So gender expression, how are you expressing yourself? And that goes with nonverbal every day. Not only the words you use, the actions you take, how do you walk, how do you talk. You know, I have a deep voice. I try not, you know, it wouldn't work if I tried to speak in a high voice. That falsetto. Gender is, in my opinion, what a person wants it to be. Biologically, I may be male. But if I wanted to wear a skirt, then what the hell? I mean, women can wear pants. There was a time where women were not allowed to wear pants. They had to wear dresses. Most women I know nowadays would be like, no. If I want to wear pants, I'm going to wear pants. So, you know, right now, to me, it's kind of a lopsided thing in the United States as far as gender, especially in clothing goes. But there was a time also I can remember guys didn't wear earrings, and now they do. So, you know, things are changing, and the world's changing. It will always change. As long as we are alive and we are people, and we have thoughts, and we have dreams, and we have hopes, things will change. So that is culture and gender. I hope I touched a few of the highlights. I hope you read the chapter. Like I said, it was a pretty good read. I enjoyed it. But I didn't think you wanted me going over everything because it takes forever to upload these videos. The last video I uploaded took me 26 hours. So we'll see how long this one takes. Have a great day. I'll see you for chapter 10.